Welcome back to the New Level Podcast, everyone. My name is Phil, and I'm your host on the show. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing, sharing, and hitting the like button. That helps us out a lot. On today's episode, we speak with Jason Tham, co-founder and CEO at Nulogy Corporation. Nulogy is an award-winning supplier of agile supply chain solutions. Their cloud-based platforms enables consumer brands and their external supply chain partners to respond with ease and speed to a volatile retail and consumer environment while reducing waste and costs and accelerating brand growth. So for more than a decade, Jason has led industry thought leadership by speaking at the Contract Packaging Association, Gartner Supply Chain Symposium, the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, among many others. Today, we talk about the difference with Jason between co-packaging and co-manufacturing. We talk about the challenges companies are seeing today to keep up with the demand and what they can do from a sourcing perspective. We talk about the importance of having a strong ecosystem. And finally, the environmental benefits to co-packaging and co-manufacturing compared to the traditional way of doing things. So without further delay, everyone, I bring you Jason Tham from Nulogy.
You are listening to the New Level Podcast, where humans talk about automation. We bring you industry experts and share new ideas that help elevate your business. Join your hosts, Philip Agib and Teresa Foreman, on the journey of automation technology.
Welcome to the New Level Podcast, everyone. My name is Phil, and I'm your host on the show. As usual, I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Teresa Foreman.
Hi, everybody. Good to be back.
And our amazing guest, Jason Tham, CEO at Nulogy. Thanks for coming on to the show, Jason.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me. Very good, and look forward to this conversation here with you and Teresa.
Of course, us too. So Nulogy providing very, very intuitive cloud-based platforms to enable consumer brands and their supply chain partners to obviously respond with ease and speed to volatile retail and consumer environment, and then also reducing waste and cost and accelerating brand growth. So great products at Nulogy. New partnership happening with Vantry. Very excited about that. But not everyone understands the difference between co-packaging and co-manufacturing. We hear these terms a lot. We have a lot of our audience that's in the manufacturing space. But talk to us about the difference between the two and anything else you want to add.
Yeah, so you're right. It's not a household term, contract packaging or contract manufacturing, certainly. But what I would say as consumers, you and I, all of us who are listening on this podcast here, we're all consumers, and we consume products in our household. So we do know household brand names like Procter & Gamble when it comes to cleaning, or General Mills when it comes to like cereal, or Colgate for hygiene products and so forth. So we know all these brands, and what these brands do is a lot of the branding of these products is what they're very, very good at. What they also do is contract a lot of the manufacturing, packaging, and distribution of the products though. So other entities, these contract manufacturers and packagers, are making, packaging and distributing products on their behalf, on their brand's behalf. So to differentiate and to kind of describe the difference between co-packers and contract manufacturers is that they're third parties, first of all, that are making these products. But contract manufacturers are typically third-party product organizations that are making product. People sometimes call it like naked product. They're blending, mixing, maybe filling these products themselves that you might be consuming. But at the same time, a contract packager is typically often referred to as like the secondary packager. They're taking that product that already has been sort of made that you might consume or you might use, but putting into secondary packaging which typically contributes to the personalization or the customization of that product. And you might see that in different retail channels. You might see Tide in one format, but in a different format for another retail chain, whether it be Walmart or Costco. So the secondary packagers, very much focused on that customization and personalization for that retail and the consumer channel. And the contract manufacturer typically making that product and converting the actual commodities into that good that you and I would consume.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great way to help us understand, and I think that's very interesting how, some retailers might be interested in the same product packaged a different way. I could see myself, using the same product in different packages. You mentioned Tide. I'm thinking, laundry detergent, and could even be something like toothpaste, for example. So that's very good. I didn't know it's done by different people, but that's good to know.
I didn't know that either. Jason, when I was doing some research prior to this call, I learned, and that's part of why we love doing these podcasts. I've never done one where I haven't learned something. And like Phil, I didn't realize that this, co-packaging thing, the whole ecosystem in terms of the supply chain I'm familiar with, but that very specific use case I wasn't aware of. And to hear that, it makes sense now that you say that, you would package things maybe differently for different channels, but not something I'd ever really come across before. And so, with that in mind, what are some of the top challenges that the companies that you're working with, are you seeing to keeping up with the demand? So much demand right now, particularly, e-commerce, and with, personalization being such a key part of marketing these days, and people want to receive things the way they want to receive them, even if that's different than the way, their friend wants to receive them. What are some of those top challenges you're seeing?
Yeah, so coming back to why these challenges are there. The challenges are there because you and I are discovering products unlike ever before. We're discovering products online, in retail, through social media, and the way that we discover products and the way we expect them to be delivered, that journey from discovery to delivery has fundamentally changed on how we see all these different products. Now, my background has actually been in CPG and working at Kellogg previously, manufacturing, and now worked in contract manufacturing. And I just only share that because back in the day, a very small portion was in the past contract manufactured out. The reason why that has been growing, and it's sort of this multi-billion-dollar cottage industry and growing at double digits, is because of the variability, because of all the different types of channels and different ways that you and I want to consume that product, different form factors. You think of the toothpaste, and you might have call it a 120 milliliter toothpaste for your home, but when you travel, you can't have something over, let's say, 100 milliliters. So you need to have a different form factor. So all of that, same toothpaste inside, different packaging, and so forth. So contracting that contract to a contract packager or manufacturer to make it for the use for that consumer adds to that variability. With the pandemic, I think the word has been used. It's been volatile. It's been unprecedented, and because of that variability, the need for brands to embrace that variability to then leverage visibility into material shortages, visibility to capacity, visibility to changes in demand, to then compete on velocity. So those are the three areas of supply chain that we focus in. It's like, how do we enable contract manufacturers and packagers to collaborate with their brands to embrace that variability that's just going to keep on increasing, pandemic or not, because of the discovery to delivery channel. And then what is the things that we can increase visibility on to increase that velocity? Because you could say that, and certainly it was unpredictable, the pandemic is a black swan event, but there will be other black swan events. Hopefully not at the scale that we just experienced in the last couple of years, but there'll be other areas, like who would have thought, a barge and a ship gets stuck in a, yeah, exactly. So these things just happen, and then how do you respond, I think is the real question.
Hi, everyone. If you enjoy the content, please make sure to share with friends, smash the like button, and subscribe.
So you mentioned, black swan events like the pandemic. Who could have, predicted it? And hopefully we don't have another one anytime soon. But of course, it's going to happen. At some point, the Suez Canal. Even then, you're like, okay, there's a barge stuck in a canal, the other end of the world. What's that? How's that going to impact me? And then you start to realize when there's supply chain shortages and labor shortages and all that stuff, you very quickly see how it starts to impact you from a goods from discover deliver perspective. What other types of disruption, Jason, would you counsel your customers to anticipate in the future?
I think there's going to be because of the speed of communication and because of the impact of social media, that brand erosion can happen very quickly. And I think brand loyalty from consumers, that switching is very rapid. So one of the examples I've talked to my company about in the past is Cardi B, a rapper, and who would have known that earlier this year she put on Instagram somewhat of a provocative image, as she would, but it was her wearing some pink slippers, and it was I wouldn't say just slippers, it was Crocs, but people didn't exactly know what it was, and she's not like a spokesperson or someone who's sponsored by Crocs, but one of the number one search terms in Google that day was hot pink slippers, and Crocs sold out by 47,000%. I understand the website actually went down or something like this, but the point is that you would have never anticipated these things. So I think influencers, I think social media, I think the unpredictability of what consumers have in terms of value-based, like what are their values? What speaks to you as a consumer? Sustainable products versus lowest cost products, or both? Is it a product when it is from a equitable source and a brand that actually stands for the values that I believe in? All of those things matter. So investing in technologies that have resilience and agility for those brands to respond to those unanticipated impacts, I think is absolutely where at least we're focused in.
I think another thing that's happening, right now that's going to impact not just, quantity of goods, but quality of goods, quantity and quality of service is the Great Resignation, right? That's happening around the world. And there's going to be labor shortages. And at some point, I've read so much data around how employers should deal with it. But what I haven't found a lot of data on is people aren't thinking through, what is the implication to the customer experience at the end of it, when you're waiting longer in line or your products take longer to get to you because they don't have enough, the digital supply chain has slowed down and whatnot. And I think that's going to be another factor. And influencers, right? That's the power they have, selling out a product overnight. What have you seen companies doing from a sourcing perspective when they find themselves in this situation?
I think from a sourcing perspective, it's all about being able to create a network of suppliers that can be fungible. And when I say fungible, it's composable. That means creating alternatives or being able to react to different signals and demands. So I think that's one thing. I think getting a visibility more upstream and downstream into the demand signal, but also what's in your supply base is absolutely key. And I think sourcing in the past, from a procurement perspective, has been like, oh, this is like a one-way transaction. Like, I'm gonna maybe beat down on price. I'm gonna just look at the commodity or what the services that I'm offering. But more and more, it's been proven that doesn't work. Like, mutuality actually does matter, and win-win relationships do matter. So how can I collaborate in real time? So there's mutuality in terms of a win-win relationship there. So building supplier communities to respond to the ever-changing demands, I think, is absolutely the way of the future, and that's what Nulogy, we're here to focus on in terms of offering a platform for collaboration and multi-enterprise supply chain collaboration specifically.
And I think that's the power of technology, right? We're able to democratize a lot of these elements in the supply chain and really get to that network and network type thinking. And you need technology to do that, right? And what I love about tech, what I know Phil loves about tech, is if you're using the right tech, if you have the right tech in your tech stack, it can be a very powerful differentiator between you and your competitors. It could offer a better experience to your customers, so you're driving brand growth, you're driving business growth. So the tech stack is very important. And so what tech are you seeing? What technologies, what features within those technologies are the sort of the leading co-packaging, co-manufacturing companies demanding and running through their company?
I mean, co-packers and contract manufacturers need to be agile. And I would say they have to offer a level of service that's better than what their customers could do themselves. So they have to be higher service, lower cost, at higher quality. It's easy. It's just one of those things. It's easy, right? So how do you do that? And you're right, Teresa. Technology, what it does is it always offers time. That's what it does. It reduces cycle time. So by digitalizing operations, providing the visibility of one shop floor into their plants, into the capacity, and ensuring that collaboratively to provide the assurance and confidence to a contract manufacturer's and contract packager's customer, so they can also understand where their supply is. That drives that mutuality. So it's kind of a win-win there. I call it a me to we versus thinking of just my own operations. How do I capture data within my shop floor, my manufacturing operations? But because I'm not making that product for myself, I need to connect that with someone else. I got to capture it. I got to connect it. I got to collaborate. And then ideally, I got to add cognition, because systems of the past are not about what is happening now into the future. ERP was what happened yesterday or the week before or the month before, right? And new technologies, new platforms today is about what's happening now and what's going to happen. So that's what digitalization, that's what we're seeing a lot of demand for from contract packagers and contract manufacturers. I would also say, you touched on this a little bit too, Teresa, labor, continuous challenge. So how do I manage all my resources? That means not just labor, but machines. How do I manage the commodities that are being brought in? How do I plan thoughtfully? So technology can absolutely help minimize, automate, and enable processes that otherwise had to be fully done manually. So improving all of that is where digitalization for contract packagers and contract manufacturers is at today.
Let's take a quick break and hear from today's sponsor. Hey everyone, if you enjoy the content you're hearing today, please make sure to share with friends, smash the like button, and subscribe. Today's episode is sponsored by Vantry Systems. Vantry is a Canadian B2B integration provider specializing in all your ERP integration needs while delivering unparalleled service, advanced technologies, and expert advice with a humanistic approach. Vantry is proud to announce a new partnership with Nulogy, focusing on bringing Nulogy data in various accounting systems. So if you're looking for deeper data integration and want to eliminate manual data entry for your team, please visit www.vantry.com/Nulogy for more information. Now, back to the show. That's very interesting, Jason. And we know how important forecasting, technology that helps us forecast, is important nowadays. Because like we were saying, overnight you can have an event where an influencer posts something about your products, and then you're overselling your product. So those things you can't forecast for, but at least let's try to forecast on what we know and what we've done historically. So yeah, absolutely. Technologies should allow these companies to do that, and I'm happy Nulogy has solutions for that. I want to go back to what you were saying about supplier communities. I feel like more and more companies are realizing, we can't do this alone. Like you said, It's all about creating that win-win environment where both supplier and manufacturer can benefit from the relationship, and there's less of that one-way relationship where you make one purchase and it's over. Often companies are going to go back to the same supplier, and they're going to want to find ways to do better business together, because if whether we like it or not, we are at the mercy of our supplier and at the mercy of our partners. So can you talk to us about the importance of having a strong support system, whether it's on the technology side, like Vantry has a partnership with Nulogy, or from a supply chain side? Just talk to us about the importance of these companies having a strong support ecosystem.
Yeah. Okay. For sure, Phil. So one thing that is a simple idea but really hard to achieve, and why I think supply chain is actually very difficult, is because the realization that no one succeeds alone. No one succeeds alone in supply chain, because it's a chain, and you need to have a strong partnership there, like we have with Vantry. So we actually both need each other, is what I'm trying to say. Just like a brand needs its contract manufacturer and contract packaging community, they both need each other. So I think that the pandemic has accelerated that entire need, or that importance for building those long synergistic partnerships. I think that one of the effects that was highlighted with the pandemic was, I have a shortage of capacity, a shortage of labor. Well, how do I get it? Who am I going to go to for that? So be present on networks to build that community, and in fact, have been present on more networks than you actually might need, so you have that capacity available, is important. And there's this concept in supply chain that's called the bullwhip effect, which is really just speaks to if I get a signal on demand and my supplier gets it a day later, well, there's a delay. Clearly, that information is dated. So anytime there's sort of a chain to pass information along that might be dated, and there's a time lapse, it creates risk. And it doesn't allow the partnership to be able to react as fast, because the information might be wrong. And so the partnership needs to be one that is collaborating on a common data model, so that there isn't any bullwhip effect, that everyone actually sees the same, sing off the same hymn sheet as one would say. So I think that is one of the things that is very important when building a community and take a community approach to building ecosystems.
I think that, that notion of what you said about, supply chains having to have visibility into what each other's doing, like that sense of community, I think that really is very misunderstood. Like, so many companies get so nervous about competitive edge and don't want to open the kimono too much. People are going to, we're going to give away our secret sauce. But what ends up happening is, when you're working in silos, that's against the very nature of what a chain is, right? Is that connective tissue. And if rising oceans, whatever that expression is, all ships rise kind of thing. And if I totally didn't get that right, but an analogy I'm talking about. Rising tides raise all ships, or something like that. And so, that's right. The power of, that's the power of community, and the power of, like, the network effect, right? And if we all sort of work together and, within clear rules of engagement, it's only going to make that chain stronger. And,
to build that community, you need to have not only this collaboration mindset and the culture. Normally people talk about trust, and it's attributed to sort of more intimate relationships. But I would say that trust is absolute paramount in supply chain, because without that trust, you're right, Teresa, I'm not going to maybe share the information because I might feel like you can use it against me, or why should I? And the truth of the matter is, if there is trust, then it makes us both better.
That's right.
So
that's very interesting, that element of trust that you're talking about. It's like everyone needs to be on the same page. Everyone needs to be working towards a common goal. And it actually leads to the next question really well, because we know that brands put a lot of importance into their environmental footprint, right? So we were talking about earlier how consumers want to purchase product from brands that share the same values, the same vision, and principles that they do. And these days, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's very important to know that ingredients and ways that products are being manufactured are done with the environment in mind. So I hope that co-packaging and co-manufacturing companies share that same importance with the brands that they work with. So I was hoping maybe, Jason, you can help us understand the benefits to co-packaging and co-manufacturing compared to traditional packaging and manufacturing when it comes to the environment.
Yeah, I think, every product that you and I consume has a supply chain. So it's some commodity that's taken from the earth, converted into some product, and every product typically also is packaged. So the impact on the earth is significant. And I think ESG and sustainability mandates from brands, we have a real impact as supply chain professionals to acknowledge what we can do. And at least in my company, our goal is to reduce waste. Now, when we look at the impact that all the products that you and I consume have, how can this contract manufacturing be more efficient, more effective, and less impactful on the earth? Days gone by, you would make, or maybe a brand would make long runs, a product for many, many days. And some of that would actually go to waste because it wasn't in demand yet. Like, it was just a forecast and it was guessed upon. But now, if you could imagine a on-demand supply chain as a service, that means not only supply chain as a service, but contract manufacturing as a service. Oh, I have an order. That's all I'm going to make now. Okay. So how do I get lean on that front there? I think is absolutely key. We have a couple of customers that are very focused only in sustainable packaging as a contract manufacturer and packager. Root Tree in Canada, and just as an example, is a sustainable packager that's fully digital, serving hundreds of different brands and offering to the brand customers and consumers an alternative that is more compostable, sustainable packaging. Green Seed as well, another one in the Midwest that is very much focused on sustainable packaging, because that is what the brands are trying to offer the consumer. And we all have a role in that, because in the digital frontier, putting a digital skin, if you will, on the supply chain to be able to sense and respond on all the different changes, and then being able to optimize that so there's less waste that ultimately goes into that product, I think is the holy grail there of what we all want to be able to do for our planet.
Which really, I mentioned at the top of the call, I'm a strategist by trade, and what's become very clear, and the data showing, is particularly with millennials and younger generations, they are, they're not so price driven. They're not so, yes, quality driven, but one of the most important things for them is, am I buying from a brand that aligns with my values? Am I buying from a company that believes what I believe? And, a lot of people in that demographic are sensitive to what's happening in the environment. And so I think it's really important, even from operationally, from a supply chain, everything you just said makes sense. I think also from a brand perception perspective and a brand reputation perspective, it's really important to look at some of those things, like how do we lessen the impact on our environment. And on the subject of people and their feelings about things, what I often hear, I know Phil does as well, around we love tech, and tech, as you said earlier, Jason, can streamline things and take some of the friction out of the supply chain, can automate things, can find you time. Often that means sometimes that means AI, sometimes that means replacing jobs. That makes people a bit anxious. But again, like the human element is so important in every business, as well as the tech element. So speak to us a little bit about like that human element. Why is the role, or what is the role of humans in the co-manufacturing, co-packaging space, and why is it really important?
Yeah, I mean, contract manufacturing is it's a belly-to-belly business. It's because of the trust element as well, as I described earlier on. So I think that the fear of maybe technology of obsoleting jobs, so we don't have jobs, I think might be overhyped. First of all, yes, technology is a deflationary sort of proposition, but like we are right now at a shortage of labor. So so your question is like, well, what do we need from our labor? And I think there's higher value jobs that could be had with labor, where technology today can automate a lot of the more medial tasks that don't need to be done by humans anymore. Now, I think still humans are there. We more recently have another partnership with a company called Saudi Automation, which is all robotics, specifically for contract manufacturing packagers. But let me tell you this: I've been in this business for almost 15 plus years, and yes, there's going to be automation, but being able to move physical things and put physical things into packets and things like this at low short run rates is not like an automotive manufacturing line. And I think you can automate only so much, but the role for humans in those environments is still very critical. So that's what I'd say why we're still requiring a lot of human labor in contract manufacturing and packaging. And that's probably just going to be as it is. You're not going to be able to remove and have robots do everything. And I think there's an opportunity for higher level of jobs to be able to take the AI signals and make the ultimate decision on what they're seeing. So I think that's exciting.
I think that's a really powerful point. I've done a lot of interviews over the years, like interviewed clients or whatnot around in the tech space. And what I've heard across the board is, I just wish I had more time to do the things that are important rather than just the things that are urgent. Right. And so I think what you're saying makes total sense. Like if we can automate some of those, urgent, but maybe lower value, and lower value to the business type of operations, and it frees up people's time to innovate, right? And whether that's innovating in, the supply chain, the way you're delivering the customer experience, and the way you're engaging with the supply chain ecosystem. And so I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's really recasting that position for people to understand, like you will always have a critical role to play here. We're just changing what the output of that role is going to be.
This call that we're having in this podcast is a simple, example of using technology. But one thing that I think is a principle in technology is it gives time, but it also takes time. So what I mean by that, it's like you'll automate things, and I can drive somewhere and technology the car before I would have to maybe just using horse and carriage, right? Obviously much longer. So I know, but it is, right? So it gives us time. But then what we do to choose with that time that we've gotten back is the key. Like now, it also takes time because I have 2 kids, 4 and 7, and they'll want to spend some time in front of Netflix or whatever it means. It also takes time away. So we all have to be also cognizant of how technology is giving and taking time. But you're right. I think in the professional industrial world for contract manufacturing, our customers that are digitalizing the contract manufacturing, they're performing anywhere between 20 to 30% better than the benchmark, and they're growing 50% faster than their other competitors. I think mainly because they get more capacity, they can handle more, they get time. They get time.
They get time.
They get time.
That's very cool. That's very cool,
our
Jason.
Most precious commodity, right? Our most precious commodity is time. Mm-hmm.
And what I think is very interesting is that because it gives us time, that leads usually to more growth. You were talking about the nature of the tasks that the people are doing in the plants. I think that if you ask any of those workers, hey, would you rather put these items in this box, or would you rather speak to a customer, or would you rather maybe tell the system to do something, or a more added value?
Creative, yeah.
They will always choose to do the creative thing. And so when Nulogy software and companies helping companies automate and implement these technologies and get back time, I think gives opportunities for people to grow. And that's why I think there's a sense of responsibility there. Companies need to take responsibility for the time that they get back and make the best out of it. And I think that with the right leadership team, any company will make the right decision there. So I think that's very cool. I think just the idea of giving people time is great, and I think people genuinely are good, and so with that time, I think they will do great things. But Jason, this has been absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for coming on to the podcast and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. I want to give you the opportunity to give a chance for our audience to learn more about you, your work at Nulogy, and what Nulogy is all about. Where can they get in touch with you?
Yes, I mean, on our website, www.nulogy.com, you can find out about all the different customers and what we're adding value in terms of supply chains. We are a company that's global in over 20 countries today. And all the products, or many of the products that you and I would consume, are possibly or very likely or maybe probably impacted by what we're doing in digitalization and supply chain. So thank you, Phil, for having me. Thank you, Teresa, for this conversation as well. That was lots of fun.
Our pleasure, Jason. Yeah, thanks so much for being here. And we hope to have you back again soon. And we look forward to what great things Nulogy does in the future.
Thanks.
You are listening to the New Level Podcast, where humans talk about automation. We bring you industry experts and share new ideas that help elevate your business. Join your hosts, Philip Aguiv and Teresa Foreman, on the journey of automation technology.